I was completely surprised. It was done in the barn at the Orpheus Centre with all of my students there. I did think they looked unusually happy because they all knew and they were all smiling. And yeah, they were all very neat and they were singing much better than they normally did. And then Michael came in, and Michael, I've known Michael for a long time. Michael has a son with cerebral palsy called Patrick, who had been a student at the Orpheus Centre for a long time. And so Michael was, perfectly familiar at Orpheus. So, yeah, as I say, it was no great surprise to see him turning up, just that he was carrying this heavy book with him. Yeah, I am properly surprised. I didn't, as Wilfred Hyde White did, say, is that the wine list? Which I think is a wonderful reaction to it. Your first reaction is that, the terrible disloyalty of everybody who knew and had known for months and hadn't told me. My wife, my children had all known, and they'd all tried to sort of drop hints. We were away skiing quite soon before it, I think, quite a short time before it. I remember my son Joe saying, "What's that ski resort in America? Aspel, I think it's called, isn't it?" And and all the others giggling, and me having not the faintest idea what they were talking about. Yeah, it took me a while to realise. And then comes the really awful bit, because they then put you in a car and take you to the BBC and get everything organised, and you have a couple of hours to think, who will be there? What will I say? Am I looking forward to it or not? And you think, yeah, I definitely am. I think the list I made for myself in the dressing room beforehand was pretty much right. Yes, and there wasn't anybody I was dreading turning up as well, which was the other worry. The way you had to pretend to like them, and they had to pretend to like me. But no, I don't think we had any of those. I have to say, been really nervous about it happening, because I have my younger brother George, who 30, 40 years ago went to live in Brazil. And it is vital for This Is Your Life to have one distant relative who is flown in at the end, and the further they're flown in from, the better. I remember George saying after the programme, "I'm quite happy to pretend to be anybody's brother if I get a couple of airline tickets to come back to England." So he's there at the end with his wife Angela, and that was lovely. It was all lovely. When you walk into the studio and you look around at the people, and there are one or two people you really weren't expecting to be there, particularly a guy called Noel Picarda, who, when I was 21, asked me to do a couple of reviews for a London nightclub. He was a very forceful person, and I hadn't seen him for 40 years. Had been, a bit of a mentor when I was very young. And it was, lovely to see him. Most of the other people who were there, I was expecting to be there. And they all said nice things, because if you don't say nice things, you get cut out of the programme, basically. Anybody who turns up and says, "Yeah, I never liked him," it's not going to help on the whole. It was lovely, my children and my wives both being there. Jack Crawshaw, the producer, said it's the first time we have ever had a first wife and a second wife on the programme. He said, "We've never had the first wife on before." Eamon Andrews always said, "You've got married to somebody, and either, sadly, it didn't work out, or you threw yourself into your work." The only reason for a marriage breaking down, according to Eamon Andrews, is always you threw yourself into your work. And that's what he always said. But no, Lizzie, my first wife, and Annabelle, they were both there, and they're good friends, because they know how very difficult it is being married to me. But again, I think that's the only time. I'm really proud of that. Cleo, who's, I think, still alive, 97, still alive. I ring her up on her birthday. They were such an encouragement to me early on. I suppose I was hoping that both of them might be there, but they're both busy people. But Andrew, bless him, because we've been working just before we're recording this. We've been working on Starlight Express and tidying it up for that, and it's always fascinating working with him. Just his kind of analysis of what will make a show work. Yeah, and it's been life-changing, obviously, working with him. financially, but also in what I know now that I didn't know before as a result of working with him. I mean, Tim is a good friend, Don Black's a good friend, because all of us who are lyricists, we all talk. And so we can all talk to each other about how difficult it is working with composers, mainly. It's as important for him to be there as for both wives to be there, really. Yeah, we had 19 happy years touring together, and we kind of resisted the idea of being a double act for quite a long time, because we knew each other. We both wrote songs and we both played the piano. And yeah, one Royal Variety performance, 1982, he was on, and they pushed the piano on, and he sang a couple of songs and they pushed it off. And then about 10 minutes later, they pushed it on again, and I sang a couple of songs and they pushed it off. And we watched each other in the wings. And we both said at almost the same time, if we were a double act, they'd only have to push the piano on and off once. and that almost sort of started it. We stopped working together and carried on doing other things. And then he got this brain tumour. And yeah, that was just dreadful. And I was with him a lot during the last few weeks when he was falling to bits and things. And yeah, tragic and horrid. Otherwise, no memories, because you're in such a state after the show, because it has been a huge surprise and wonderful. And the day after, I was doing a recording session I was doing a voiceover for something. And I had a script. And I looked at the script, and the script said curtain, say, and I said cauliflower. And however hard I tried, I could not say the words that were written down on the script. And it went after about 20 minutes. And I got back to normal. And the producer thought I was messing about. And I genuinely could not send from my brain to my mouth the word that I could read there. And so I went to the doctor and I said, I've had this. And I had an MRI scan. And I'd had what they call a transient ischemic attack, which is a very, very tiny stroke. I think as a result of the sheer thrill of doing This Is Your Life. I mean, it didn't nearly kill me, but it had been such a shock to the brain that the brain thought, oh, and took an hour off. Yeah, the first time the show nearly killed somebody. I bet that's not only me. It is an existential shock being on the programme. I mean, now that I'm very old, I go to too many funerals and memorial services, and every time at the memorial service you say, oh, she would have loved this. Oh, what a pity she isn't here. And in a way, This Is Your Life is seeing your memorial service before you die. I mean, it was really nice in that it's a kind of badge, isn't it? That there is a kind of automatic recognition. Whatever else happens, I have been on This Is Your Life. And that was a source of certain amount of self-satisfaction there that one had made it enough to be one of the subjects of the programme. Well, quite privileged to be chosen, very moving to be part of, and as I said before, it is a bit like being at your own memorial service. And there are worse things than spending an hour with people saying nice things about you, which is different from most of the other hours in my life, so that has been nice.